Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Swipe up 185. This is the show where I share my opinions on current events and make trolls very unhappy and cry on the internet towards me in words that they try to make me feel bad, but they're not very good at it. So let's get it started, shall we? Starting off with a little bit of entertainment news, Adrian Brody has boarded Rian Johnson's Peacock series, Poker Face. I had no idea Rian Johnson was developing a TV series on Peacock. I am a big fan of Rian Johnson. If you want to hear more, go check out my top 5 Rian Johnson films over on my top 5, or inspireddisorder.com or youtube.com/inspireddisorder. They have worked before. They worked on the Brothers Bloom together, Adrian Brody being one of the two brothers. And, Rian Johnson, obviously, most recently known for the movie Knives Out, which is supposed to be releasing a sequel to very soon. I would imagine very soon. I think it's been finished. But aside from that, that was the only thing rumored for Rian to be working on, aside from a potential Star Wars trilogy that he was supposed to be heading up, which I hope would still work. I think his Star Wars film is by far the best Star Wars film ever made, and actually makes me happy that Star Wars fans cry about it. I mean, that one is very divisive. Some people really don't like it. But as far as the newer Star Wars films, it is definitely my favorite, and probably my favorite of the. I mean, some of the most beautiful images and set pieces are in that Rian Johnson Star Wars film. But yeah, Poker Face. Apparently, let's see. Deadline reports the Peacock series, quote unquote, Poker Face, has now cast Oscar winner Adrian Brody. The roster already includes Natasha Lyonne from Russian Doll, huge fan of that show and of her, Stephanie Sue, Benjamin Bratt, David Castaneda, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt is credited to be in every single Rian Johnson film. Obviously, the star of the movie Brick, written and directed by Rian Johnson. So super excited. Rian Johnson is writing and directing the 10-episode show, which he's described in press releases as fun, character-driven, case of the week, mystery goodness. Poker Face has yet to set a premiere date on Peacock. Yeah, I love Rian Johnson. I think he's a great writer. I think in Star Wars he's shown that his visual aesthetic is just at the same level as his writing, and both of which I think were on display in Knives Out. So I'm stoked. I do not have Peacock, but I would definitely sign up. I mean, on Peacock we have The Office is a great show. You have Parks and Rec is a great show. So maybe when this show gets released, I'll sign up for Peacock for a month or two and just do a rewatch of both of those franchises. I love those franchises. I watched at the beginning of the pandemic when I was having the most difficult time with my mental health. I was in severe, just constant panic attacks for probably a good month or so before they started to taper off. But one of my only escapes and only pieces of joy in that time was watching Parks and Rec, which I had never watched before and watched for the first time. You actually watch my review of that where I almost cried because it meant so much to me. But I would love to go through that. I also went through and watched The Office around that time too, because I had never finished the last few seasons of The Office, so I wanted to see how that played out and finished, which I don't think that didn't really finish very strong. But Parks and Rec was a great show, man. Such a great show. So I might have to sign up for Peacock when this show comes out. So anyway, let's move on. Good news to hear. And now a quick word from our sponsor. Now you can wear The Many Faces, original art by Ray Taylor. Select pieces from the ongoing series of abstract ink paintings. All products made with high-quality materials, made right here in the USA. Go to inspireddisorder.com/TMF merch to browse the entire collection and save yourself an extra 10% when you check out by using coupon code RTSTMF. So once again, go to inspireddisorder.com/TMF merch and save 10% when you use coupon code RTSTMF. And now, back to our show. Move on to some bad news. Some disappointing news, some news that is just not going to stop happening because so many Americans prefer their toys of mass destruction versus the lives of children. This one being the video that I'm sure everybody's seen at this point of a little softball game going on, or a little not softball, but baseball, kids baseball, not t-ball, like Little League. How about that? Little League. Yeah, it says it right there. Little League game in South Carolina. 58 gunshots interrupt Little League game in South Carolina. Let's see. Does it say if anybody was hurt? I don't think it does. Just like guns have a very specific purpose. Guns are a tool to enable humans to end life with minimal effort. That is their purpose. Generally, those should be used for things like hunting. If you're going to harvest meat for your family through the act of hunting, you're going to want yourself a gun, right? Unless you're a bow hunter, which respect to you. But if not, you're going out there with a rifle. The only need to have a assault rifle, especially one that's automatic or semi-automatic, is to eliminate human life. Generally, those are used in war or in invading, because that's most of what people are doing these days. Countries invading other countries, like America loves to do. America loves to go in and invade countries so that they can get the resources of that country at a good price. You see Russia taking that out of our playbook in his invasion of Ukraine. The only difference being Ukrainians are white and Americans generally invade countries of brown people. But either way, I'm not a fan of war. I don't like companies that justify their existence to produce these guns. I can't understand how they look at themselves in the mirror, how the owners of those companies look at themselves in the mirror and actually think they're doing something good for humanity. It is clear that it is just another example of how we live in a country that values profit over people. And the fact that they argue for like even the smallest gun laws, right? They over exaggerate. So, they're taking their guns. I would love to live in a world where the reality of the government taking people's guns was even an option. But I know that we don't live in that world. I know I do not live in that world. But I would like there to be steps in a direction that would keep guns, especially certain guns, out of the hands of certain people. I would love for that to be something that other humans would be okay with. They would value life in a way that they would want to protect the sanctity of life in a way to keep guns out of the hands of certain people. But they don't. And a big proponent of that not happening is the NRA. Basically an organization that encourages and allows for domestic terrorism to continuously happen. But yeah, nothing's going to happen. I just wanted to show another scenario where, guns are not the solution, and nothing will change. Like, it is so crazy how just when I was a kid growing up, this shit didn't happen. The first school shooting happened when I was in my senior year of high school, Columbine, 1999. And now in the year 2022, it happens so much. It's like a joke on South Park. How, like, it's just an everyday occurrence that there's a mass shooting somewhere, especially now that we had a little break during the pandemic. But now that, the pandemic's, in quotes, over, quote unquote, over, people are going back to their old ways of just using guns to eliminate human life. Because why should human life be worth anything more than somebody's ability to curl their finger? Why not? Just kill everybody. It would be nice if everybody that owned a gun would at some point use it on themselves. Wouldn't that be a great world? We would eliminate the people that want guns, and also just kind of eradicate a big toxic part of our culture. But let's move on. Let's move on to the all-new Toyota Sedition. As somebody that likes to vote with my dollar, I try to spend money in ways that don't support organizations that I disagree with. One example is Disney. I'm not a fan of how Disney, during the pandemic, raised the pay-per-view prices of UFC fights, not once, not twice, but at least 3 times that I'm aware of. Where people are financially struggling, we have a global pandemic going on, and Disney is more concerned with just squeezing out every last penny that people would have on a sport that they may enjoy. So I no longer am a fan of the UFC. I mean, there's other reasons for that as well. Not a big fan of Dana White or how he likes to manipulate his fighters into thinking that they don't deserve money. But specifically Disney, because I don't think Disney's a very good company anyway. They don't like to pay their artists. There's a big hubbub because they stopped donating to the Republicans, but they only paused that donation process. Like, I'm sure as soon as whatever DeSantis's, tirade of crybabiness ends, they will get right back to donating to conservative politicians. But it seems as though Toyota is doing a similar thing as far as donating to conservatives who were responsible for trying to overthrow the government. And not that I'm in the market for a new car, but if I was, this would definitely discourage me from buying a Toyota, which, as a brand of automobile, Toyota, one of the most reliable, holds their value extremely well, and I would consider getting a Toyota under any other circumstances, but not now. Not now. If I was, I'm not in the mood, in the market to buy a car, but if I was, I would probably do a little bit more research and see what car companies don't donate to conservatives. But definitely just the idea and concept of voting with your dollar. Since we have so little control over anything in this country, unless you're a billionaire or running a giant corporation, the individual has very little to no control over what happens in the government. I mean, we vote, and our votes are counted, but on that side, there's a lot of, people that aren't able to vote, or not eligible to vote, or not allowed to vote, or kept from voting. Like, there's a lot of fuckery that goes on with that. But if it's because voting, as far as it's been proven in the past election, there's very little to no voter fraud that goes on. But aside from that, aside from your one vote that you can cast, there's really, there's not a whole lot of things you can do. So not spending money, giving money to companies that do things you don't agree with is one of the ways. So I try and do that. And and another reason I chose this, because I enjoy the Photoshop. It's funny to see a good quality Photoshop with a message versus a lot of like the right-wing propaganda Photoshops you see are really bad. Really bad. So it's good. I enjoy seeing a high-quality Photoshop, Join Inspired Disorder Plus today. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus to join. Membership includes members-only discounts and deals. You get access to the Ray Taylor Show completely ad-free, as well as bonus episodes. You get access to the complete live painting archive. You also get access to every single podcast ever produced by Inspired Disorder, hosted by Ray Taylor. You get access to Ray Taylor's personal blog, as well as the opportunity to ask me any questions. So if you want to start a podcast, you're into art, ask me anything. And so many more things are being added every day to Inspired Disorder Plus. So sign up today, become a member, head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and become an Inspired Disorder Plus member today. And last but not least, a story that's really not covered properly in any news organization, but a man dies after setting himself on fire in apparent Earth Day protest. So there's this guy, 50-year-old Win Bruce from Boulder, Colorado, died April 23rd, one day after an act of self-immolation on the steps of the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. Bruce, a photographer who identified as Buddhist, had reportedly lived in Boulder since the year 2000. Environmental Defense Fund climate scientist Kriti Konko said on Twitter that the act was not suicide. This is a deeply fearless act of compassion to bring attention to the climate crisis. We are piecing together info. He had been planning it for at least a year. Win Bruce, I am so moved. Obviously, most notably in protest is, if you're a Rage Against the Machine fan, the album artwork of the Buddhist who lit themselves on fire in protest of, I want to say, China invasion, something like that. I don't know the politics of it, but it was to bring awareness to an issue. And it's sad that Bruce did this protest, and none of the news organizations mentioned that he did it in protest for climate awareness. Like, they just blew over that, this guy set himself on fire. Not, like, as far as relaying his message, this is how much these news organizations do not care about humanity. That they were unwilling to relay his message and his reasoning for the protest, for setting himself on fire, which I can't imagine. Only a Buddhist, if you're meditating constantly, that's probably the only way that you could survive mentally being set on fire. But it's sad that it's like we have these situations, and you saw it also not that long before, where scientists chained themselves to the outside of a building. I think it was in L.A., and then like just a battalion of LAPD showed up to get rid of like these 4 scientists that were, and they didn't really talk about why they were there either. It's like, it's clear that like all these news organizations are on the side of profit over people. Like, all of these things are showing to the world, whether it's mass shootings, whether it's people protesting climate crisis, whether it's police brutality, it's that the narrative of everything to keep everything status quo is to maintain profits. They will do nothing to interrupt profit making in this country or in the world. And it's disgusting that we value, as a collective, humanity values money over humans. And just another example of that in this story here from Bruce from Boulder, Colorado. It's sad. It's sad. It's sad not only that he's dead. I mean, it's sad when anybody kills themselves. You know, there's a lot of reasons to kill yourself. It's, we live in a time where there's not a lot of hope. Doesn't seem like things are going to change anytime soon in a positive direction. What the point is very hard to discern, aside from making as much money as you can while you can. So it's sad. It's sad that nothing's going to happen. It's sad that, this is, so ignored. Just so blown over and passed off as just a guy committed suicide. We don't want to tell you why. It might actually make you care about the environment. It might actually make you realize that all of these countries and corporations that are pretending to care about the climate, they don't really care. U.S. military pollutes more than most corporations combined. And from what I heard, they're just inflating the budgets of the military even more. Any reason to profit off of the military-industrial complex, they will. So, I don't know. Enjoy life while you can, because nobody's trying to make it a better place. I mean, there definitely are people trying to make it a better place, but their efforts don't seem to be effective. Even billionaires are more concerned with purchasing a social media platform than they are doing actual good in the world. So I'm not really seeing any glimmers of hope anywhere. Just false glimmers. Just people pointing at shit and calling it a glimmer of hope. Basically what's happening. But that's the news. Those are my opinions on current events. Let's do some shout outs and get out of here, shall we? Shout out to Slash Film, shout out Occupy Democrats, shout out LincolnProject.us, and shout out Not This Now This Politics. But most importantly, shout out to you. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at InspiredDisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at InspiredDisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.